Thanks, thanks a lot for inviting me. And in this talk, I want to cover what I call the golden rules of developer relations. And let me start by introducing myself. I'm Gerard Sans. I'm originally from Barcelona in Spain, and I'm a developer evangelist in web and cloud. So here you can see me going swimming in a lake. This was last winter, and it was quite freezing. You can see me on the wetsuit and all equipped. Temperature was 10 degrees, so it was pretty cold. And yeah, so this is a little bit about myself. And I want to start with a backstory, and this is to relate why I call the talk the golden rules of DevRel. And I'm going to start with a picture, and probably most of you will recognize him. And this is Usain Bolt, and he is very popular, and I bet that every one of you know about him. And he has won 9 gold medals, which is quite impressive, let's say. I want to show you another picture, and who recognize him? Maybe not so many of you, and it's a little bit crazy for me because he is. He is Michael Phelps, and he has won 23 gold medals, which is the highest number of medals that anyone in the Olympic Games has ever won. And you may wonder, like, how you can win so many medals, and how he did it. And this brings us back to the golden rules. And this is the book that inspired me to create this talk. And as you can imagine, a lot of people looks into Olympic athletes who are that much successful, looking for answers of how they train, how they achieve these amazing results. And actually, the book, the original book, The Golden Rules, is a book that covers all the history since Michael Phelps was a kid and was recruited, and then it goes through all the lifespan until he wins all his gold medals. And this book is written by his coach, his swim coach, and he shares all the tips that he has used over his career to train top athletes and also gold medalists. So it's quite interesting book. And one thing that I realized when I was reading this book is that it could be applied to other areas. And I wonder if I could apply it to DevRel. So let me check a little bit more details about Bob Bowman. And this is a picture of Bob doing his training. And he wrote this book, which are actually 10 rules. And this goes back to the thousands of hours that, as you can see here in this picture, he's training swimmers. And most of them are also Olympic medalists, as I was saying. And probably from all of these 10 rules that he gathered throughout his career, he's going to share how these impacted Michael Phelps' progress, and also how he can not only use this to achieve amazing results for Michael Phelps, but for the other people that he has coached. And if we look at his own achievements of Bob Bowman, he has 35 years of swimming coaching. He's also in the Hall of Fame of World Swimming and Diving. He has been 6 times the USS Swimming Coach of the Year, and his trainees have beaten world records for more than 40 times. So it's quite an achievement what he has done, and also together with Michael Phelps. Probably what he's more known for is because he was the lifelong coach of Michael Phelps since he was a kid. So that's a little bit of the introduction. What I did during the preparation of my talk is I group these 10 rules in different stages. And the first stage will be the foundations. What are the things that you are gonna need if you want to be very successful? And I'm gonna focus in DevRel. So let's start by the golden rules. And the golden rules, everything starts with a vision. And this vision is kind of a dream scenario where you see what you want to be doing in the future. And then you are not restricted but by any skills or by any uh, limitations that you would normally use. You are just daydreaming what is your vision, what you want to achieve. And the next thing will be to set a goal. And that would be a state where you will be happy with the results. This could be anything. You can set your goals, for example, to be international public speaker. It could be leading a DevRel team in a large corporation. It's just your personal goal. As part of the foundations, the rules that I'm going to be focusing in this stage is setting the right mindset, also taking risks and setting your goals. And through all this talk, I'm going to be following the same rules that Bob Bowman used in his books, and I'm going to try to apply those to DevRel. So when I'm talking about the mindset, this is sometimes how you approach the difficulties of going through your vision, implementing your vision. And taking risk will go through those moments where you need to take a leap over to some unknowns. And this could you could see this happening in different areas. In my own experience, this could probably be in public speaking. It could also be in content creation or community building. Of course, in any of these areas, you will be taking risks sometimes. Or maybe it's a risk that you take in your personal life. When I started in DevRel, I had to leave my job and focus on creating technical trainings. And this was a special time in my career because I had to leave a really good job in the city in London and try try to focus on DevRel activities. And the way that I decided to do that was to do paid trainings. So you definitely need to take risks if you want to achieve your goals and your vision. The other thing that you need to do is goal setting. And when we are talking goal setting is usually an approach of setting manageable and reachable goals as a milestone to get you closer to your destination. So, of course, if you take and set a goal that is too difficult, you will be disappointed, you will be struggling too much. So, you need to be very careful what milestones you set for yourself. And let's start with showing some examples. So, you can see here when I started, and the way that I started was creating a small workshop. And at the time, this was 6 years ago, you could find me in a meetup looking at some code, you can see that there's no many people. Usually, when I started my first community, we were mainly 2 or 3 people. And of course, if you think about managing a community or a meetup group, you're thinking like, oh, this will be a 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 members community. It will be buzzing, but that's not really how it happens in reality. In reality, when you start, you probably are 1 or 2 people, but the mindset is, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna go through the learning process. So you don't give up, and you just stay, and you just grow your skills along the way. So when I was doing these meetups, of course I was going back home and thinking, look, we were 2 people at the meetup, and then I prepared for the next one, and this is how I got my experience. So the mindset is very important. The mindset is, we are doing this. We are going to achieve our vision, and we are going to do we're going to put the work that is necessary. This is now one of my first workshops that I did at QCon London. And you can see this is a full room. There's almost 40, 50 people. I mean, that was quite a session. And when you are looking at this, you will think like, okay, well, we go back to the taking risks. I mean, of course, when I wanted to do a training at a conference, this was my first large conference. QCon London is quite large, and I took the opportunity. It was kind of outside my comfort zone, so I took the risk and I went through it. Of course, there were few issues, but we're going to cover them a little bit later. But you can see that they are happy. But this is another example of how you take risks. Usually, I would be more comfortable with a small group, maybe 10 people, for the experience I had at the time. I mean, I had the materials. It wasn't an issue with the materials, but you know that as people may find issues, you may be overwhelmed, as I was alone on myself. So that was another example. Of course, I will be going through different examples of my own development. This is going back to my first talk. And as you can see, what's going on here? This is a silent disco conference for my first talk. And this is not the best environment. You can see the people, they are wearing these headphones, and you don't even know if they, I mean, you suppose they are listening to you, but the room was also with noise. You can see there's people playing a football. I mean, it was quite bizarre. From this first talk, I remember when I was backstage, I saw a door open at the back, and I was thinking, okay, I was pretty nervous, and I was thinking, okay, what happens if I just go? I leave, you can see here, there's a little bit, you can see the backstage there. And I saw this door and I thought like, okay, maybe I go, and what will be the worst that happened? So yeah, you need to take the leap. I mean, I didn't leave. You can see me in the picture, giving my talk. But you go through little crisis, and you definitely have to go and take those risks. This is another time when I was MC, and this is also another opportunity that came to me by chance, and this is because the actual MC was not able to attend. So I was more like covering for another MC, and the organizers, they knew me. because I was also running a meetup on my own. So they know me. They knew that I could potentially do it. So they ask me and they tell me, okay, tomorrow, sorry for the late notice, we have this conference. It's a one-day conference, and we need an Master of Ceremonies. Would you like to do it? And I was thinking, I don't know, I never done this, but this is somewhat related to community work. And yeah, I decided, okay, let's do this. And and here you can see me doing some emceeing. I mean, the emceeing is more like a host, so you introduce the people, talk to the audience, warm them up a little bit. And this was kind of the beginning of another area that I developed during my background. Um, so that's about the foundations. Another set of rules that take you from your vision to your goal is what I call the journey. And these are some other rules that Bob Bowman describes what he thinks makes swimmers successful. And the rules go around these different areas. What he mentioned is the daily effort. Like, what is the boring tasks that you need to do day by day? This would be more like the training. You can imagine swimmers going to training sessions for hours. And this can be also seen in DevRel. There's a lot of tasks that are mostly logistics, and you will just go through them, and there won't be much excitement. Not everything is exciting in DevRel, but people have this vision of, you know, the fancy and the trouble and all that. But there's a lot of groundwork that goes behind that you have to make sure to be done. There's also mention to the support network, and I think a lot of the times we don't cover this. This is a long journey. I mean, for me, it has taken maybe 5 to 6 years to really reach to a point where I find myself like being a professional in DevRel, and you really need a support network. The other thing that he mentions is that very successful people in athletes and gold medalists, they know how to stay motivated. And I would say that in my case, I would just stay motivated myself. Most of the times, you don't get that many support, and you think, I'm doing all these things, and where is my support? Where is my, okay, you did a good job. So most of the times you probably just do it yourself. I will get into this routine where if I do something that I'm really proud of, I would just imagine myself like saying, okay, Gerard, you did a good job, you did a great job here. And I even have some of these in my slides. And I think it's very important because you want to stay positive and motivated. So let's go ahead and look at some of these moments as related to these journey rules. So this is when I got the Google Developer Expert, and this is an award that Google gives to the most active contributors in different areas. In my case was Angular, and you can see here this is a group picture. There's other Google developer experts in Angular. There's also the Angular core team. We can see here some of them. This is years ago, so some of us have changed. Some of us have moved to big companies, but this is the Google Developer Expert Summit, and the most active members of the GDE group will be invited to go to Mountain View with all travel paid, and then you will be able to meet with the product team. Then, depending on your specialty for us was meeting with the Angular core team. Besides that, you are also invited to other events like Google I/O, and this all depends on your activities and the impact that you have. So this, of course, was a highlight at the time. And this is actually my support network. This is a group of people with the same goals. And in our case was being experts in web and Angular. So this is where you can get collaborations, when you can get referrals, when you get excited about things that are happening in the community. And I think this is very important to find your tribe, let's say. These are some international events, of course, because you are part of the Google Developers Experts Network. You get sometimes invited to international events. You can see here, maybe recognize some of the DevRels that are from the GD program and other programs. And this is also beneficial as you go along and you have these support networks. This is another example of Google I/O. This is the year conference for Google. And you can see that this already gets massive in numbers. And of course, this is along the journey of your developer relations. You probably cannot expect to start in DevRel and start traveling the world. I mean, it's also because of the pandemic, but there's a reasonable expectation that this will happen at some point. Let's cover another area. And for this next stage, I'm going to call it struggles. And for the struggles is in your journey from the initial vision to your goals that you want to achieve, you know that at some point you will face some struggles. And as Bob Bowman talks, people that are very successful, they know how to deal with the struggles. And I think that will make the difference for you. And this is how you face adversities and how you stay focused. And I covered some of these in the previous slides, but basically this is when something bad happens and how you recover from those situations. And people that are successful, they know how to deal with these struggles. So let's look at some of them. And this is probably the most common. Your talk has not been accepted, or your talk didn't pass the approval from the program committee. As you do more and more, you really don't mind. You really don't mind. If I make an effort to do a call for paper, I try to make it exciting. I try to make it relevant for the event, and maybe I will invest some time, but I won't be that much invested that I will get disappointed. Or usually I will create a proposal that I can use for more conferences, or I will just focus around a topic that doesn't depend on a single conference to give me that return. So your talk was not accepted. Of course, you don't need to ignore it. You probably want to know why. As you are learning, you probably want to know, okay, there was something wrong. You probably want to review what made the conference not pick your talk, but also you cannot hang up to that failure. I mean, it's not even a failure, but you want to learn from those situations. Another example would be when you are creating your community, how you look for bigger venues. And here I have this slide. At the time, I had two groups. One was 800 members, the other one was 500 members. This is Angular Zone and GraphQL London. And it was a point in time where I needed to grow the communities. And I didn't know if I could host the events. Events were successful. I had enough people coming to the events, but we were reaching to the limit of the venue. So I had to look for other venues. I mean, I could also just limit the access to the people and then make the events of a certain um, capacity. But of course, you want to keep growing. So, yeah, you need to deal with that and learn and grow with the situation. There's also another issue that you may face along your DevRel development. And for me, this was just doing events in Europe. So I did a lot of events. This is one year. So I've been in different Angular conferences. I've been in a web. I've been doing some GDG events. But you realize that these are all in Europe. I mean, there was only one that was in the US, but the other ones were all in Europe. And when you think about it, it's not that easy to move from between continents. You need to fund the travel, you need to fund the hotels. Unless you are working for a large company, this won't be easy to overcome. So you will need to find ways to go through that. One way that I found to overcome that was through collaboration. So I did a collaboration of a training with Angular Academy based in Canada, and this allowed me to move to other countries while still doing my work. So here you will see some pictures. These are some of the flyers that I created, and actually the workshop was very successful. You can see I also took some time to visit the waterfalls in the border from Canada to the US, and I really had a great time. So this is one way that I overcome that struggle, which was being limited to Europe. So I found a creative way. And this is along that time. You can see all the locations that I was able to speak at or do events. Some of them were supported by the Google Developer Experts, and some others were sponsored by the conferences. So here you can see some of these locations, and you can see at this time I didn't do events in South America or Asia, mainly the Asia area. So that's also another thing that you need to realize. You may struggle in your goals. I mean, was my personal goal, to be able to have done a talk everywhere in the world. It's nobody else's business. But of course, in that journey, I struggled to achieve some of those locations. The last stage is reaching your goals. What you do when you reach your goals, and this is probably the sweetest stage. And Bob Bowman goes around to celebrate those achievements and then thinking on what else you can do after. And I'm going over time a little bit, so I'm going to be a little bit faster in this area. So here on the Master of Ceremonies, I had the opportunity to meet, of course, Evan Yu from the View framework. I was able to do interviews and meet a lot of people and also have a lot of fun. But this wasn't, once you have done 5, 10 Master of Ceremonies or Master of Ceremonies for days, you need new challenges. So this is when I started looking for other opportunities. And here, this is the 10th anniversary from DroidCon London. And what I asked the organizers is if I could bring other MCs. I didn't want to do the emceeing. I mean, it's always nice to be the only MC in a conference, but I did DroidCon emceeing for maybe 3, 4, 5 times, and I was thinking, okay, let's twist it, and I invited other MCs. In this occasion, there was another MC, we invited, but I also tried to invite more MCs, and I think there was a time when we invited two others, so we were like three MCs on the stage, and that also brought some challenges, like how you interact and make it nice when you need to switch from one MC to another, and then we found different ways to achieve that. So you always try to invent new goals. Of course, when you reach your goal and you have been an MC for 3, 4, 5 times, it's not a challenge anymore. So you need to find different ways to make it interesting. This is another achievement. So this is a workshop that I did at ngConf, and ngConf is the Angular Conf, the original Angular Conf. So this was kind of my achieving my goal of doing a training. You can see that there was 100 people in the room. So I think that was a goal tick for me. One thing that I did on the training side is, okay, now I can do 1 day training. I can do all these different formats. So I imagined a new format, and this format was a whole week. And this was called Angular in Flip-Flops. And what I thought is like, okay, we can do 3 days of workshop, and then 3 days the participants will build an application in groups. So this was the setup. I did a collaboration with Chris Sevilleja that you may know. And you can see some of the pictures. We also had some surfing lessons. And this is some other things that you may imagine. Besides doing the trainings, you can also imagine new kinds of formats. And this is kind of the same that I applied here. So this is a conference that I did with some people in the Angular community that was happening in a cruise. And it did happen. You can see all of the organizers here. This was a cruise around the Bahamas, departing from Miami, and it was awesome. And these are the things that you do when you achieve your goals, then you make the goals harder. And this is kind of an example of that. And on that topic that we covered, this is now my current kind of location. So now I've done Asia, I've done Australia, New Zealand, South America. The only missing bit here is Africa. I haven't been in any conference in Africa, so if you can help me on that, that would be awesome. So I want to wrap up now, so I can just tell you, if you are starting in DevRel, just let me tell you that you can do it. One thing that I would recommend you is finding a mentor. Like Bob Bowman was helping swimmers and athletes to achieve their goals. That will help you a lot along all the stages. When you set your goals, when you go through your journey as a support network, telling you where to look at, what challenges can you go through, or if you already have the experience and you have been through all of this and you have been successful, be a mentor, because it will make a difference for someone else. Thank you for listening. That's all what I wanted to share today.